So, I uploaded that video to BitChute, and they did it again. They stopped it at 5:08 into the video. Is my internet still working? Yeah, internet's still working, but this is not working. Look what they've done. They completely stopped the video, people. It's at 14 views now. When I came in, it was at 1. But it's not playing. Not playing. Like, this is stupid. Completely fucking stupid. You see? This channel on BitChute is being shadow banned by BitChute. Okay, this is BitChute shadow banning my channel. Just like YouTube shadow bans my channel with their source code. It can't be anything else but that. Okay, they've written something into their source code to interrupt my videos. Right? Okay? Something is in there they imported through their tags and their scripts. Okay? Do you see what's happening here? Again. Seriously.
You know where popcorn seeds are? What happened? Oh, popcorn seeds.
Alright.
Why are you storming?
Does this one play? Probably not.
What's going on?
So I can't use this website. Right? This is not right. This is not fair. They can't go around promoting free speech, everything that they can promote to get people to sign up to them so that they can encourage them to support their free speech website, when in fact, clearly, this is not a free speech website. Okay? There's nothing free speech about it. Because if there was, this wouldn't be happening.
Happening here.
Okay, so this is March 3rd, 2021. Now, I just went on to this CDC reporting system here again. I put in for the month of February. I can't print this out, people. Like, I can't print it. Look how many pages there are just for the month of February. Do you see this? Okay? I can't print this out. That's too many. That's 600. That's over 600 pages. Okay, that's a lot of pages to be printing. So anyway, I just want to say that, right? So we're gonna cancel that.
That they completely and totally control.
You know, I'm probably timed out, but look at this. Okay, this is for the month of February, adverse effects. Okay, you can see this. This is crazy.
We will go to your phone calls.
And this is 1% or 10%. I've heard people say 1%. I've heard other people say 10% of what's being actually reported and documented where you can access it. But I just want to point out, people, that in British Columbia, Canada, under Dr. God, Dr. Death, Dr. whoever she is to you, we don't have this problem. No. Ours is like flying colors. Nobody's getting injured out here. Nobody's dying out here because of this, what they're doing to the general public, okay? For some reason, British Columbia, Canada is immune, right? We're special. All right, for whatever reason, it hasn't been figured out yet, but being that we're so special, you would think that the real world, all these other places would be looking to BC to figure out how we're trying to do it, okay? Well, not trying to do it, we're doing it. We're not anywhere close to what's going on in other countries. We're special, okay, right? Because we're on track with 100%, what is that, gold standard practices that protects everybody. So with that said, you would think that all these countries that are having these kind of problems would be looking to British Columbia, Canada, to figure out what it is that we're doing so special. I'd like to know what we're doing so special, people.
We've caught them all
Okay,
on tape,
so
not taking
I
a
am
shot. Netanyahu, all
printing
of them.
out-
We'll be right back on the other side with Chris Sky. I'm
What's
Alex
going
Jones
on
with
here is,
Infowars.com and Newswars.com.
What's going on here is I'm on the website, right, that gives you reports on adverse effects. When I did all adverse effects, it was like 629 pages, over 7,000 logs in terms of for the month of I think it was February, for the month of February, people. I mean, I can't print out 629 pages, right? So what I'm doing right now is I narrowed it down to the deaths in the month of February that were reported. And I'm going into their ID numbers and I'm printing out this right here. So this is not medical misinformation. Okay, this is either doctors, healthcare staff, in nursing homes, places, or in hospitals or wherever, like healthcare staff, whether they're nurses or assistant nurses or, you know, those types of people, right? As well as individual family members to these people who have passed away, okay, that are reporting on this website. I already got this page. Nope. And, I mean, I guess the point of this video is, because I printed out, I got my stuff ready for my government, okay? All right, and we're going to read the names of all the people that signed. That will be a whole video because we're looking at 1,503 signatures, okay? So anyway, like, I'm disturbed here, people, right? Because I can take you on to the British Columbia YouTube channel, right? With Doctor Who, Dr. God, Dr. Death, whatever she is to you, going on about how everything is honky-dory and just wonderful in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and that we don't have this problem. Basically, that's what she's saying. It's been a success in terms of the numbers of people that they've inoculated so far with their analog. And, but because in the real world, when they do their data mining, right, everybody else is doing really, really good. So therefore, we must be doing good too, because our statistics that only they can see say so, right? We can't see those statistics, just like I can't see Sierra's coroner's report. I haven't even gotten a summary on that yet, people. Nothing. No summary on the coroner's report in regards to what they did to Sierra, right? And I've received nothing from the police in terms of their so-called investigation into John Hart. Nothing. Sierra's been dead over a year now, people. Well, no. She's got another 8 more days to go, March 28th. She was released out of jail on March 24th of 2020, and she died March 28th of 2020, 4 days after being released from jail and lured, in my opinion, to her death. As our so-called public union sector are shifting and shading around, withholding information. So we can't be surprised that we can't access this same kind of information in British Columbia, Canada, right? So I am taking the time a little bit here. You can see, right? This is not medical misinformation. This is actual documentation from various community members within the United States of America, whether they're healthcare professionals or healthcare assistants to those professionals, or whether they're family members from A to Z in regards to the people who are actually dying from this. And these are like after they've received 1 or 2 inoculations regarding what's going on today, okay? So I'm shaking here, people, because I don't understand how my government could possibly say, I don't understand how the British Columbia, Canada provincial government could possibly say that we don't have this same problem. We're immune to this problem. And if they're going to acknowledge it, it's only 2 out of the 1,400 or so that have already died in this province. That's being documented. That's actually being documented. Right? Because not everything gets documented correctly in this province. So, I'm going to do this for a little while longer, because when they come for me, people, trying to force me to take this, I have to stand my ground. I can't afford to get sick. Okay, now, when I did adverse, I'm losing my numbers in here. I don't know why this one's saying 82. I don't see where 82 is in here. I don't know how far down I've gone. But, 639 pages with over 7,000 entries just for the month of February in terms of adverse effects. Okay? Not deaths. I don't know if deaths were included in that number, but that's a lot of people getting injured. Okay? And some of these injuries are sticking around for a long time. So here we go. I'll just read this one here. All right? We've got a 70-year-old person who was hardly that old. Right? 70. That's not that old for some people. Right? They're from Georgia. They received a vaccine on January 24th. So I guess this goes as far back as January. January to February, I would think. I don't know. And the report came in on February 1st. So anyway, the onset of whatever happened to them started on the 25th. So within 1 day, they died. Okay? They were in senior living. They were 70 years old. So this is why I'm printing this out. It's a little more official, right? Death, yes. Life-threatening, no. Permanent disability, no. Because the death occurred, so they didn't get any of those things, right? They had the Pfizer dose 1 and dose 2. They had 2 doses and they died after the second dose. Symptoms: cultural urine negative, death, full blood count normal, general physical health deterioration, hepatitis, metabolic function test. These are symptoms, right? They listed under metabolic function test normal, mobility decreased. Resident was noted on January 25th with an increased functional decline, as she would not feed herself with utensils. But would eat finger foods if placed in her hand. So something was happening with her brain, people. Remember, I had mentioned that we're going to see symptoms of brain concussion. They say that symptom stems from the virus itself after the fact of getting a so-called virus. But doesn't that sound like if she just stopped with the spoon and then could only resort to finger foods being put into her hand, where do you think the neurological problem is manifesting? In her hand or in her brain? Confusion. Right? She was started on Repicin, something IM, for possible infections. So they didn't even know if she had an infection. They just started giving her something. Labs had been obtained on January 21st, 21, unremarkable for CBC and CMP, 75,000 colony count on urine. On January 26, 21, she was noted with right side weakness. What? The right side of the body just decided not to work all on its own? Or did it come from the brain? Right? Was it spinal damage? Did something in the spine? Where did the injury occur where the right side of her body just stopped working correctly, that is? Right-sided weakness and further decline. So she kept declining, right? She was sent to hospital for further evaluation. We were notified that she expired on the 28th. And we need to remember, I doubt anybody was with her when that happened, people. Just like when they took Uncle John, he didn't have his immediate family with him outside of those people that medically kidnapped him. The only people that were around him were the people who medically kidnapped him. Okay? Not his immediate family that he actually helped to raise over a period of 34 or 5 years. Okay? And physically lived with in the home for 23 years before he was medically kidnapped. And then tucked away like a dirty secret. Okay? Resident had been noted with a decline in function about 2 weeks earlier when she would not stand or transfer any longer. Now you have to remember, she had 2 doses of the vaccine. Okay? This was her second dose. So the symptoms started to show probably in and around, if not after the first dose. The second dose just pushed her over the edge. Right? She was 70 years old, people. She was still responsive, taking meds, and feeding herself until January 26, 21. Okay? And she was vaccinated with the second dose on January 24th. And by the 25th, she was showing symptoms. So much so that by the 26th, they really noted it down. Further information on admitting, diagnose, and progress notes from hospital have not been available to date. And she died on January 28th, 4 days after her second dose of Pfizer. That's why I'm printing that out. Now, if I look here, okay, I don't want to drag out this video, but this is so important, people, because my government is like, my provincial government is saying that none of this is happening in the province of British Columbia, Canada, that everything is going great. I can go and take you onto the website and put up Doctor Who and give her free publicity to show you how she says that. But at the end of the day, right? Nobody out here is being told the truth because we can't fact check the truth, people. You have this, then you have this, then you have the medical files, then you have the medical billing files, then you should have the autopsy files. And the family should have access to all those files. That's what Uncle John, Auntie ShaMay, Sierra, and the rest of my family, and my friends and supporters who toe the line are fighting for. Okay? Now, this woman, she's 70 years old. She's just an ID to the tyrants in the community. So she's 0992082/1. But we know somebody loves her and is mourning her. Okay? Here it is right here. This is the one, because I'm printing out a few of them. Okay? I'm probably going to have to refresh this page now. I don't know if they'll let me, what do you call it? I don't know if they'll let me continue printing because everything times out after 10 minutes. And I don't know where 82 is here because, oh my. This is 82.1. You know my eyes, right? There we go, 82.1. I see it. Let me go down to the next one and see if it'll let me bring it up. Okay, yeah. So we'll print out a few more yet because when my government comes for me, this is my evidence, people. Yeah. So anyway, here it says, it's hard for me to see. Resident was noted on January 25th with an increased functional decline as she would not feed herself with utensils. But, okay, I read that, right? I guess because it's right here, too. They posted it twice. It's there, and it's there. Here, they just make the details a little more. So, let me do this for a bit more, people, because I don't want to time out on this website. So, hold on a minute. Okay, so this is so wrong on so many levels, people. I seen one was here. How old was this individual? 39, I think, was. 39 years old. I just seen it. 42. It was administered. The vaccine was administered in a private facility. Okay. So I don't know what that means. Right? 4 days after that, died. Had cardiac arrest at 42, people. Cardioversion, chest discomfort, death, dysphoria, electrocardiogram, something intubation, mechanical ventilation, palpitations, and unresponsive to stimuli. Right? Okay? Like, this is so wrong on so many levels, people. And this is, we'll just say 10% of what's happening out in the United States of America. I don't know if it's 1%. I've heard people say 1%. I've heard other people say 10%. So, you know, as my government in British Columbia, Canada, is acting like everything is fine, and that all this isn't happening out here. Right? And of course, you know I want to get into that pre-recorded live stream being restreamed that were written by ghostwriters 2 weeks in the past, right? And then reported on 2 weeks after the fact. But, you know, nobody wants to take that as valid, right? Nobody's reporting on that outside of maybe me, right? And even then, you know, I'm not reporting. I'm just bringing it up for debate. But nobody wants to debate with me on that one, right? In terms of how our governments are getting away with this stuff. Because they're getting away with it, people. These are a lot of old people, basically, who are dying. Like, en masse here. Literally, en masse. Right? It's hard to keep track of these numbers because the thing keeps jumping back up, eh? And I'm looking. But I'm like so flabbergasted with this. You can't imagine how flabbergasted I am. I can't believe that we can't stand up against this. Nobody's standing up against this, people. Okay, so let's read this one here. Right? Every voice counts, right? Even when they're dead, their voices counts. Uncle John's voice counts, people. Uncle John was the tip of the iceberg of being medically kidnapped, tucked away like a dirty secret as these so-called health professionals and politicians covered up heinous crimes to basically steal his assets as they destroyed his family while they did it. Okay? The family that he helped to raise, right? The family that he loved, and he told us to stick together as a family, people. It was Uncle John who came into the house saying, stick together as a family. That's why Auntie Joan ended up coming over here, because she was part of the family. And even Auntie Joan was the tip of the iceberg. Even Auntie Joan was the canary in the coal mine, because I'm telling you, people, they shut off her water. She went into long-term care. Doctor came into her room, said, oh, you've got 1 year to live. She went in December of 2012, and sure enough, by December of 2013, she was gone. Uncle John and I, we figured it out, but it was too late. And then his immediate family, we were his immediate family. His extended family picked up Joan's body, right? Because Joan had a will, and you know, she had her life insurance policies and everything. So all they wanted was the dead body. So they had the body shipped over to Victoria, buried it, kept Joan's will hidden, didn't tell Uncle John that he inherited money, right? Until 14 months after the fact of Joan's death, people, and then after the fact of illegally drugging him, illegally detaining him, and illegally drugging him up and putting him in a hammock and putting him in the bowels of a ferry and driving him after they get off the ferry into the emergency room in the Victoria General Hospital, and then cry wolf saying, look how we found him, even though he had already been in the freaking healthcare system out here in Fraser Health for over 39 days or 40 days or something, 42 days or something like that. They didn't find him like that, people. They made him like that. And then they kept him drugged up as they were all running around looking for a superannuation life insurance policy for the government, as they were badgering ShaMay for me to go find it for them and to give him his ID. But of course, you'll never hear it from ShaMay because ShaMay's dead, because that was taken care of, because ShaMay was an actual witness. Right? Interesting how ShaMay's not here to talk about that, but ShaMay told me. I was there. That's when I told her, when I found out that Cheryl from Victoria was phoning up ShaMay, bugging her to look for Uncle John's superannuation life insurance policy and to get his ID and send it to them. Right? I said, look, you need to start recording these phone calls. If this woman's calling you up, asking you for this stuff, you need to start recording these phone calls. So she recorded a couple of phone calls. But you see, Uncle John knew what they were like, so he canceled his life insurance policy when he was 65. They took him when he was 76, so they didn't find much. They just kept him alive for a few more years to follow up on the paperwork and, you know, make it look like that they were looking after him, even though he was tucked away like a dirty secret in an old folks' home where nobody could see him except them. Right? Well, it's the same situation, people. All these people aren't having their loved ones with them. Just remember that, okay? Just remember that. They're dying alone, basically, with just workers. That some of them don't have a problem turning a blind eye with the IV, the water drip, being turned off because the doctor said so. You only have 1 year to live by any means necessary. Okay? This is why I'm kind of doing this too, right, people? It's so important that we fight for our elderly. It really, really is. So I want to read this one, and then I guess I'm going to upload this video. I'm going to end it because I could go on and on. Or maybe I'll read a couple of them, right? And we're going to end it. I'm just reminding people that, you know, if they're concerned, you know, maybe I'll provide the link to this website, right? And you can do the research yourself, right? You can print out for yourself what you want for your own files so that, you know, if they come to you and it's something that you don't want, you have a little bit of documentation, not misinformation, but actual documentation that gives you a little bit of ammunition to be able to protect yourself, okay? Right? Because as it is right now, we're not getting this information in British Columbia, Canada, and a whole lot of other people aren't getting this information in Canada. United States, some people don't know, right? Okay? Let people know that they can get this information to be able to protect themselves, okay? Because when they come to you and they say, oh, well, this is it, you know, it's your age bracket and you're on the list, and if you don't do this, this is going to be the consequences of you not doing what we tell you to do. I'd be like, why would I? Why would I? As if I can afford to get sick. My family's been beaten down so bad, people, that it's enough for me just to keep up with what I'm doing, okay? I'm 60 years old. I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job considering everything that my family has gone through. So why would the government want to potentially make it harder for me, or make it to the point where I just pop off and poof, I'm gone and nothing moves except me, right? Well, then they get to capitalize off of my grandkids, right? They're going to swoop in and, you know, and whatever they've been doing, because nobody's going to speak out about it because I'm gone, right? They're just going to keep on fucking doing it. You know, I almost want to put this stuff, honest to God, people, in with this. I do. I almost want to. Because it relates to Uncle John. It relates to Uncle John. This is what they did to Uncle John. I'm telling you. They took him, they locked him up, wouldn't let nobody see him except the ones that medically kidnapped him, to take all his assets, as they just destroyed everything in their path, including Uncle John. And now they're doing it to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of old people. Where is the logic in this? There is no logic. Outside, governments are saving lots and lots of money as they're falling off the grid, not having to pay out pension plans and all this stuff. In addition to, they're propping up their own companies, right? Like Doug Ford in Ontario, propping up his Deco company, where when you walk into a store and you see a big X on the floor, apparently that comes from Doug Ford and his company from Ontario. He's got all of Canada buying his products, and he's the premier of Ontario. That's a direct conflict of interest. Well, it's the same thing with these analogs coming in through the back door, right? Under emergency clauses that haven't been properly tested. Clearly, there's a problem with them. But not in BC. No, 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 no. Not in BC. We don't have this problem in BC, right? Why? Why don't we have this problem in BC? I'd like to know. Why? Because what? The Punjabi community's not speaking up about it? The Chinese community's not speaking up about it? Do you know that from these countries that I just talked about there, mentioned, they have their classism where, you know, what are those people called? Where they clean the toilets. And they were born into cleaning toilets, and they can a caste system. They can never rise above cleaning a toilet because those outside of that caste within India or China or any of those kind of countries that think like that, think that those people deserve to be treated like that. And nothing ever changes. Well, you know, I'm wondering if we have this problem. Well, we do, people. We do have this problem in British Columbia, Canada, right? But, you know, it's something we don't talk about because it's too political and it goes against discrimination and, you know, and blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you know, we all know that rich people or people that are well-to-do, they get their maids, their butlers, you know, they're whatever it is, janitors, cleaning staff, berry pickers, you know, chicken gutters, whatever, like in terms of working in a chicken factory or working in the fields picking blueberries, you know, like, I'm just wondering how much the upper echelon is exploiting these workers in British Columbia, Canada, based on the caste type systems that they operate within their own countries before they get here, and then justify mistreating their own people based on that caste system. And if they're doing it in their own countries, nobody can't expect them to not come over here and do it over here. So it's happening, people. And I'm thinking maybe this is why nobody's talking about what's really going on in British Columbia, Canada, right? Because they fell under that caste system because they were nothing more than a berry picker picking blueberries, as the government's trying to figure out how to, barcode each and every blueberry tree to control the farmers. Because we get our immigrant workers coming in, they go into co-op housing, big houses, because they come in from India or wherever, right? A lot of them from India. And then they go directly to the farms, and that's all they do for 10, 12 hours a day, every day, while they're out here working as they're trying to support their families, poor families mainly in India, right? It's just a chain. You know, a manufacturing chain, like running human beings out in the fields, basically. And they do it for low wages, but for them, they're grateful just to have jobs. But they're under that caste system to which our government exploits people. Okay? So, you know, if they start losing their elderly to what's going on, if they fall under that caste system, I don't think too many people are going to really say too much about it, because it's a caste system. There's more of them from where they came from. As one dies, another one comes. And they're not going to say, no, don't give me that, because first of all, they can't speak English. They're happy just to get a job. Okay, whether it's working in a chicken plant, whether it's working in a blueberry field, whether it's working in an old folks' home, wherever they're coming to work, they're happy just to be able to have a job. So they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them, especially when you've got their religious leaders telling them that they have to do it, because the religious leaders have to make sure that there's an X amount of participating, right? Right? You have to feed the beast, people. Right? These preachers and pastors and presidents, and they want to keep their seniority. Right? They want to make it look like they're diplomatic with working with the government in terms of, well, we want to open up our churches or our temples or our mosaics, but we can't do that until, we get everybody vaccinated first, right? Because that's what the government says. So, money dictates that in order to be able to continue running their church, they have to feed their flock that spiel. And being that many of them come from other countries on temporary work visas, right? Or whatever, right? And they don't speak English, and they're very vulnerable and very dependent, and they're already working at low wage, which immediately puts them into that caste system. Their lives are expendable. And it's not being reported, people. It's not being reported. Nothing's being reported out here. I listen to that Doctor Who, Dr. Death, whatever she is, Dr. God to you. I listen to those individuals quite regularly. I'm pretty sure I said two died after a vaccine or something like that. Outside of that, no, it's flying colors. Everything's grand. We don't have the same problems as the rest of the world, even though she keeps coming in with this real world data mining to keep pushing the envelope as she's targeting the poor, as they, not she, as they are targeting the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable, the ones that are illiterate, the ones that really don't have advocates speaking on their behalf, because the advocates themselves see them as below them. They are below them. I am your advocate, but I am above you. You are below me. Kiss my feet. When one dies, another one can come. It's that simple. And because they're taking it, because they don't have a choice, if they want to work in the berry fields, picking strawberries, picking apples, picking whatever it is that they freaking pick, or working in the chicken plants, or working in the care homes, changing diapers, right? For minimum wage, or whatever it is, wherever they're working, if they want to work, they're going to take what's given to them. And they're not going to be able to fight back. Because they'll be reprimanded through their churches, even if they're not physically in the temple or in the church, right? It's in the house, because it's through the community. But yet, nobody's talking about the injuries that are actually occurring around this issue. And there sure to hell isn't anything that's freaking actual documentation where it's physically visible. Okay? People aren't going to go out of their way to write false information to gain attention to themselves. Okay? Just like I didn't file a lawsuit to document false information to get attention to myself or to my foundation that I work on, which has basically been destroyed by my government and their cohorts over a period of years, because it represented too much independence for the people that are falling through the cracks and would prefer to have a prosperous life through self-empowering their own communities. Government doesn't want that. That's pretty plain to see, right? So anyway, let's just read this, and I'm going to end it on this because this is disturbing. This is like so breaks my heart. Like this is enough to make me want to cry. Because it takes me to Uncle John's bedside, people, and not being able to hold his hand with my kids and saying, we love you. Right? You know, that was robbed from us. Right? Those people that did that, they thought it was funny. And they're still working in the healthcare system, robbing other people of their loved ones, thinking it's funny. Okay? Well, it's not funny. There's nothing funny about this. Okay? So I'm going to read this. I probably timed out. And then I'm going to turn off this and I'm going to upload it. Like, it makes me want to cry. And I'm so angry with it that I kind of want to just pop it in when I file my lawsuit with the government as a reminder that Uncle John's voice is just the tip of the iceberg, because they're not just dealing with anti-ShaMay. You have to remember, on ShaMay's lawsuit, I listed Fraser Health Authority's lawsuit and CIBC lawsuit, in addition to that kangaroo court appeal, freaking whatever it was, where that judge sent me to the cops, okay, because he didn't want to do his job. All right, so there's like three other different court cases that haven't been settled in court yet, people. So this relates directly to Uncle John, because what these people are going through is what Uncle John and his family went through. So here's okay. So this is a 73-year-old female. Well, in this case, it would be an Auntie Joan, that received her first dose of Moderna vaccine on January 8th of 2021 at approximately 1600 hours. Within 1 hour, the patient developed altered mental status. Remember? Concussion. Symptoms of a concussion. And increased weakness, because your brain's inflamed, right? She was transported to the hospital by the staff at her assisted living facility for concern. So she was in assisted living, so she was still quite mobile, okay? Because she was in assisted living. Auntie Joan was in assisted living before she moved in with us, because they were going to put her in long-term care. And Uncle John didn't want her to be in Victoria by herself with nobody visiting her. So he asked if she could come here and we'd help her. And I said yes. So that's how she ended up here. And she lived with us for 9, 10, 11. She lived with us for 4 years. So basically my kids looked after Auntie Joan along with Uncle John and myself for 4 years before she finally went into long-term care. Otherwise, when she was in Victoria in assisted living, that was it. She was going to go straight into long-term care. Instead, she came over to us and she had 4 more years of basic freedom, independence, right? Was taken to hospital by the staff at her assisted living facility for concerns of a vaccine reaction. On admission, oxygen saturation was found to be 89% on room air. I don't know what that means. BP 37/86. HR 94. Labs were normal with the exception of WBC equals 15. Leukocytes normal. Chest x-rays clear. COVID test negative. And a detectable tropin equals 63, head CT negative. Physical exam was only notable for slight superficial arrhythmia over distal right forearm and dorsal hand. No significant edema. The patient was treated for a possible allergic reaction to vaccine with NS bolus, something 125, something, okay. Showed no improvement, so a head MRI was ordered. Wow, you know, again, people need to look into these medical files that taxpayers are paying for all these procedures that these hospitals are billing our governments for, okay? Right? 9 days, a dead body on a hospital bed hooked up to a whole bunch of machines as they did a whole bunch of unnecessary tests on a dead body, right? In regards to ShaMay, how much did that cost the taxpayers, people? Okay, and this is assuming that this individual was still alive, because once this person was transported to the hospital, I highly doubt that the family members got to go inside and hold this individual's hand. Okay, this individual was strictly with the Lucy's roaming the halls. It was Lucy's, a band of Lucy's in terms of Dracula with the Lucy's, that was doting over ShaMay, a dead body on a bed for 9 days. Okay? There are individuals out there that do that kind of stuff. And this is why I do what I do, people. Okay? Because it's wrong. So a head MRI was ordered. MRI showed 1, numerous acute cerebral and cerebellar infarcts involving both anterior and posterior circulations, consistent with a central metabolic source. I don't know what that means. 2, minimal right parietal pectoral hemorrhage. Okay? 3, moderate ostrophy and moderate non-specific white matter signal abnormalities, compatible with chronic microvascular ischemia. Neurology was consulted, who approved the start of aspirin to continue DVT something. The patient advanced dementia and timeline. The patient's advanced dementia and timeline preclude other intervention. The patient's status was do not resuscitate, DNI. The patient was discharged on hospice to her assisted living facility on January 11th, 2021. So that was 3 days after she got it, right? With reports of continued somnolence. It was reported the date of death was January 24th, 21. So she just continued to deteriorate, people. She just continued to deteriorate. Where was her family? Was her family allowed to be with her? Or were they doing Zoom calls? With those Zoom calls being disconnected. Because there's people out there having that problem. As Dr. God, Dr. Death, whoever she is to you, saying, oh, everything's going great out here. This is a great, big, grand success story. But no. You can't still go see, you can't. And if you can, before you can, you have to be on the list. You have to be on the list first before you can even walk, like in terms of you got yours, right? Before you can go see your loved one in these situations. This is bad, people. This is really, really bad. And I'm printing out. Do I have this one? No, I don't have this one. I'll print this one too. Yeah. When they come for me, I'm going to let them. I'm going to show them. What, do you think I'm stupid? Just because you're hiding it out here in British Columbia, Canada, doesn't mean that it's not real. In terms of what's in the real world happening. Right? And of course I want to see it in my own way, but you know, YouTube and their stalker basically their employed stalker, would just love to say that I'm providing misinformation. This is not misinformation, people. I just printed out that 71-year-old woman, her story. Her story, people. That was her story. Almost from the onset, she started to deteriorate, and it just got worse and worse and worse. I mean, obviously she was in assisted living, people. So there was a level of functioning. She was functional. Auntie Joan, they were going to put her, okay, I'm going to end it on this, okay? Auntie Joan, they were going to put her into long-term care, people, before she came over here, because she wasn't able to function anymore in assisted living by herself for whatever reason. But when John asked me to have her come over, because my kids were already grown and I was there, right? I didn't feel like we couldn't help look after her, because that's what Uncle John needed. He couldn't do it by himself, people. He needed help with that. And his family, his immediate family, the one that he invested into, was there for him to help her. She lived with us for 4 years. And trust me, it wasn't a cakewalk either, okay? She had her issues, but she got 4 good years being free. She had her little, like a little motorized wheelchair that was top of the line. Government paid $10,000 for it for her. She used to drive around with it and, and go shopping and drive around in the stores with it. And, she had a lot of freedom. Right? Took John on it for a while. She actually tried to take John for a ride on that thing. Oh my God. But, they got to re-spark their marriage by having a loving family help them in that 4-year period. Okay? So this individual wasn't even in a care home. They were in an assisted living facility functioning, and then suddenly became basically dysfunctional and deteriorated within these ones are all dying the day after. Which one was I reading? I don't know. Anyway, you get the point. Okay, so I ended on this. Just a number. However, was a real man. He was 75 years old. Okay? He got vaccinated on the 29th through a private setting. Onset of symptoms. He died day after. Here, patient's wife called the physician's office with increasing SOB. I don't know what SOB means other than son of a bitch. MD advised that the patient go to the ED, which I'm thinking is emergency department. While dressing, the patient became unresponsive. So that means he was dressing and then he fell down and just wouldn't respond. So what do you think is making the body do that, people? Is it coming from his legs and arms and his torso and his neck and his fingers that's telling him that it's not going to work no more? Or is it coming from the brain? Okay? 991 was called. Patient expired in emergency department. Okay? Lab, current illness. He stated he was experiencing some shortness of breath with cold and walking up the steps. The patient did report that they had done some bloody stool earlier in the week, but that had resolved. Medication, that was his current illness. So he had some bloody stool earlier in the week. So they're giving this to people that are showing symptoms of illness. Okay, why you would do this? This is not a medication, right? It hasn't proven to been effective in terms of a medication. So why they are doing this, I don't understand. Medication at the time of vaccination, unknown. History, allergies, PMH, DM, okay, HTN, obesity, hyperlipidemia, chronic kidney disease, polyps, could have been where the bleeding was coming from, removal, history of angioedema, secondary ACE inhibitor. Submitting a report to VERS does not mean that the healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contribute to the adverse event. Possible side effects. Okay? Right? You have to keep that in mind because this is how they're getting away with it. This guy, he had all these issues. So it was a coincidence that one day after receiving the vaccine, which was the first dose, he passed away. But he had enough sense to try and get dressed to go to the emergency before that happened. But whatever overtook his body overwhelmed him so quickly that he became unresponsive while dressing people. Okay? So yeah, like this just, it goes on and on. I mean, I'm seriously. So, age 64, another man, just a number. There's the number, that's his number. But he was a man, it says right here, male. He was 64 years old. He was from Minnesota, right? The day he was vaccinated was on the 25th of January. He started showing symptoms on January 26th. Right here, you can see that. So one day later, he started showing symptoms. Okay? And then he died on the 29th. So, right? That's 4 days later, people. Okay? Here, this was his second dose. Okay? So this was his second dose. Right? He developed back pain, bodily temperature increase, so that's a fever, and vomiting projectile. Right? Adverse event description, low-grade temp, persistent low back pain, and projectile vomiting. Medication at the time of vaccination, clozapam, which I think is for depression. Because Ken, that young man I helped out that for over that year, I think he was on that. I don't know what this is, but anyway, myritazine, something, and then something, and something, and something, and something. Okay? He had, in terms of history, Huntington anxiety, depression, constipation, and paroxetine. Now, and of course, we've got note, submitting a report to VAERS does not mean that the healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contribute to the adverse events. Adverse event. My thing is, some of these individuals, says constipation there, right? You know, living in a senior living, they're left to sit in diapers or lay in bed in diapers, people. They're not being in positions like sitting on a toilet where, you know, gravity, like in Amari's case, actually helps for people to have proper bowel movements. You know? This is something to be thinking about, right? A lot of these individuals, they don't get an opportunity to go on a toilet, especially if they're not feeling well. These care facilities, they leave these elderly people or whoever in these situations in bed with the diaper on. Right? It's a sad, sad day. Another 64-year-old male from Minnesota. Right? Just another number. I didn't print this out, did I? No, this is a different one. 73, age 73, age 75, age 87, age 64. Okay. This one here, this fella happens to be 64 years old. Days of onset, the next day. Right? Here it is again. Right? But it took him a while before he died. He deteriorated over a period of time. Right? Because, you know, what was his issues? Back pain. Oh, wait, we did this one. Hold on a minute. Every voice counts. Just another number. However, this was a woman. She was 86 years old from Kentucky. Right? She got vaccinated with their first dose. Okay, just the first dose, right? On January 7th. And then the onset of symptoms was 17 days later, by the 24th, right? But she died on the 27th, people. So within 3 days of starting to show symptoms, she died. Okay? Okay. She got 1 dose of the Pfizer. Symptoms, chest x-ray, death, oxygen saturation decreased. SARS-CoV-2 test positive. Okay. First COVID immunization. What? Was January 8th of 2021. Well, January 7th, sorry. It's my eyes. COVID positive results on January 16th of 21. And on January 24th of 21, O2 stats decreased to 78%. On the 24th, revived. That's revived. The balance, okay. Infusion. She was sent to hospital and admitted on the 27th and expired. She was admitted on the 24th. Okay? Because she had all this, whatever this was done. Chest x-ray, something da-da. Okay, she was sent to hospital and admitted. So I'm thinking it goes in from on the 24th. And then on the 27th, she died in the hospital. Okay? More than likely, by herself, people. Outside of hospital staff. Okay? Because we know what's happening with family being denied access to their loved ones. Her current illnesses were rheumatoid arthritis. That's not life-threatening, people. Overactive bladder. That's not life-threatening, people. Obviously, she was old. What was she? 83 years old? 86. She was 86 years old. But those were not life-threatening. Glaucoma. I have glaucoma, people. That's not life-threatening. Major depressive disorder. At her age, at 86, wasn't life-threatening. She made it that far with that disorder. So that's not what killed her. Alzheimer's disease, not life-threatening, people. That's not what killed her. I don't know what this is. Polyneuropathy, right? I'm not sure what that is. But in light of everything else, I don't think that's what overtook her body. Maybe she's allergic to something. It says polyneuropathy, codeine, penicillin, Enbrel, Septra, sulfa, and antibiotics. So, I don't know. Maybe she was on those medicines or had been known to use those medicines. Well, this is her medication history right here. This right here. a calcium capsule. Doesn't that sound familiar? That's what they were giving Uncle John. Nothing more, nothing less than a calcium pill. Oh yeah, okay, my ass. All right. Anyway, her voice counts. Right? And then, of course, they make sure to remind you that there is no set in stone relation to anything that happened to this individual when it relates to these inoculations or the healthcare staff. Okay, so this, I'm going to end it on this one, people, and this is why I'm doing it. This is why I brought up the caste system, okay? This is why I don't trust what's going on in British Columbia, Canada. For the simple fact is, we don't have these problems, even though this is, real world data. For whatever reason, our representatives in British Columbia, Canada don't seem to want to report on this information. They don't want to make this information available to the public in terms of provincial data in the true sense of accessing the data for yourself. You can file it, but you can't see what you filed and what other people filed, just like I can't see my daughter's autopsy reports and all this other crap. But besides this point, this individual was another man, just another number, but we know he was a real man. He was 82 years old. Okay, he's from Montana, right? Every voice counts, okay? On January 29th, he got vaccinated with something, a Moderna. That's what he got inoculated with. And then the next day, he died, people. He died. All right? Vaccine administered by private. This is being done through a private enterprise. Somebody did something to him. Death. I don't know what this is. Okay. Malaise. I don't know what that is in terms of symptoms. But anyway, this is what I want you to hear. Listen to this. Patient complained. This right here. Patient complained to wife. So he's got a wife, right? Of not feeling well in evening after the vaccination and expired at home during the night. You see, that's what I want you to hear, people. He expired at home and told his wife that he wasn't feeling well after he privately got inoculated by somebody at age 82, and he died in his own home with his wife not knowing what to do, who obviously lives in her own home in her 80s. Now, this is where I'm going to end it. My problem is we can see that there's obviously issues to which my government is completely ignoring, distracting away from, playing it off like it's nothing, because this information doesn't fall under world data that they draw upon in order to sell 5.1 million people in the province of British Columbia, Canada, to take these inoculations as to what's given to them, regardless of what it is and where it came from, but take them as they're targeting vulnerable individuals that are working in the fields, right? Working in the poultry factories and those kind of places. Working in the grocery stores. Working in the old folks' home. Working wherever they're working. But a lot of them are low wages, coming in from other countries And as fast as they come, fall off the grid, you've got another 10,000 willing to come and fill that one spot. Okay? So, what I'm trying to say is, if it's happening in Montana, USA, it's happening here. I've read enough of them to show you a pattern. I gotta keep printing these out though, because if I don't, it times out on me. I'll print out a few more. And this is what's happening out here too. It's just, you can't get this information, people. And because it's a throwaway society. And, you know, these people at this age are so easy to replace, to have someone else fill their spot. It's nothing to move it along. Business as usual. Right? So as the numbers out here fall through the cracks, because there's no advocate for them, people. I don't hear of any Punjabis speaking on behalf of the Punjabi community. None. The only thing that I'm hearing is for the presidents and the gurus and them is to work and get the community to step up to the plate, to take their shot so that they might get a go card to go into the temple to make a donation to their president. And maybe share a meal. Maybe. And maybe have a normal funeral. Maybe. And maybe they might be able to have a decent wedding. Maybe. They might be able to have their Vaisakhi parade, but not this year. It'd have to be maybe next year. Everything's a maybe. It's all maybe. I don't know why the Punjabis can't hear that it's freaking maybe, baby. It's just a baby. You know, it's like a player playing the hoe, right? You know, it's maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe, baby. Maybe later, baby. Maybe. Everything's a maybe. Or even the Chinese community. Like, you don't hear them rallying the troops. You don't hear the Chinese community rallying the troops to stand up and self-empower themselves and prepare themselves for this. You don't hear of the Punjabi community standing up, self-empowering themselves to prepare themselves for this, right? You don't hear of the Muslim community standing up, empowering themselves for this. You have a lot of white people running around acting like whatever they're acting like, freedom fighters, but they don't necessarily go down the path that I go down. And, but outside of that, people, like, how dare my government try to say that this stuff is not happening in British Columbia, Canada? Okay, British Columbia, Canada is no different than anybody else out there. They are pushing this AstraZeneca vaccine like no tomorrow. And they keep dropping the word India for race baiting purposes, right? In my opinion, because if you're from India, doesn't matter what part, how rich, how poor, all you have to do is hear that it came from India, so somehow it's going to be safe. But yet, there's something like 25 countries that have pulled that particular analog off the shelves and aren't giving it to their people. They haven't been pulling off Pfizer and this Moderna, even though the numbers are coming in under those inoculations, right? But you see, they're not really into full swing with it yet in the United States. As a matter of fact, we've got Biden, apparently, from what I picked up on, what do you call it? Giving Canada 1.5 million doses of either Pfizer or Moderna, one of those. 1.5 million people, or 1.5. Why would the United States give Canada 1.5 million doses of something when they've got 10 times more the population than we do? How does that make any sense? As these things are being reported. As these things are being reported. How does that make any sense? Okay, here we got a 57-year-old female from Kansas, right? On the 16th of January, she got a Pfizer shot, started showing symptoms the next day, on the 17th, and died that day, one day after she got it. She was 57 years old, people. Vaccine administered by pharmacy. So she went to the mall, went to the pharmacy, and took the shot, went home and died. Or was she in assisted living and then went home and died to her assisted living care facility? What do you think? Because she got it from a pharmacy. Unless, of course, the pharmacy came in. Doesn't say where she was living. But she was 57 from Kansas. Okay? Just another number. But for somebody else, she was a real woman who was 57, who had people who loved her. Right? It was her first dose. Death, fatigue, vomiting, pyrexia. The next morning after vaccine, after the analog, patient ran a fever, vomited, and was very tired. Mum. So this woman who was at home, mum maybe? Mum laid her down to sleep. Oh, her mother laid down her daughter to sleep. And when she checked later, patient passed away. Okay? Unknown. History of allergies, unknown, and sulfur allergy. Note, submitting a response to VAERS does not mean that healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contributed to the adverse event possible side effects. Do you see that? If that's not upsetting, I don't know what is. She goes home after getting a shot from somewhere through a pharmacy of some sort. Mom lays her down because her daughter's not feeling very well. Comes back later to check on her, and she's not moving because she died. But that's not happening in British Columbia, Canada. Oh, no. Not at all. Nope. Nobody's speaking about any of that out here. No. Everybody's just dying from the big bad CV. Right? Nothing related to anything. Even though we got Rumorville of this and Rumorville of that. Right? But it's all Rumorville. Right? No fact checks. We're not allowed legitimate information in British Columbia, Canada. Right? We're not allowed to be free thinkers and look outside the box for that information. Okay? Because as soon as we do that, we're going to be accused of spreading misinformation. Right? So, but this is not misinformation, okay? All right? This is a mother and obviously a sibling because mom, right? And somebody else was there helping mom. Mom put her daughter down to rest, and then mom came back and found her daughter dead. Just trust me, I know how that one feels, people. I know exactly how that feels. I sent my daughter downstairs thinking she was going to be okay, and next thing you know, I'm running down the stairs finding her dead, breathing into her mouth as bubbles are coming out. And she's as gray as death. And then 9 days later, I seen that same fucking gray with her head above the sheet after the fact of her body being pillaged. And her teeth. Okay? Like, this upsets me so much. "64 years old, female, Minnesota, vaccinated January 27th, onset January 27th, right? It was in a public environment of some kind, wherever it came from, okay? Went into the hospital, right? Days in the hospital for 2 days, more than likely without family. These were all the symptoms: abdominal pain, ascites, blood alkaline something, blood chlorine decrease, blood creatine increase, blood culture positive, okay, blood, death, blood, okay, whatever, right? There's a whole list of them there, right? Adverse event description. Patient presented to the ER, this was the same day, right? With abdominal pain, I'm trying to look for my mouse, and septic shock. Patient reported to feel ill shortly after receiving the vaccine. Right? And then there's the lab data it gives you, of course, right? How much money did that all cost, people? Okay? How much money? And then the medication at the time, and then the history of allergies. Okay? So this was this person's problems. And then, of course, submitting a report to VARS does not mean that healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contributed to the adverse event. Right? Okay, just another number. Right? However, this was a woman. She was 62 years old from California. She got vaccinated on December 1st of 2020. And then 31 days later, right, on January 1st of 2021, she started showing symptoms. This was one dose. Okay, so cardiac arrest, death, decreased appetite, dependence on respirator, SARS-CoV-2 test positive. And whatever that is there, I don't know. Right? 62 years old. She was in senior living. So I guess I should consider myself lucky at 62 years old, eh, people? She was injected. She stopped eating and talking. The doctor watched her for 2 days. Had her transported to the hospital. I was told Okay, I was told. So this is somebody else crying out for help. Okay, obviously. Because you're not allowed to be with your loved ones, right? There's a reason for that, people. I was told she was tested positive for COVID 2 times, once at the home and once at the hospital. Okay? This is obviously a loved one fighting for a loved one. Within 2 days at the hospital, she was on a ventilator. 2 days later, she died. I talked with the rehab center and confirmed she tested negative for COVID on December 27th, 2020, and was given the vaccine on the 29th, December 2020. Was in the hospital 4 days later. Was on ventilator 4 days after that, then died a few days later as her heart stopped beating. All the while, I had POA, power of attorney. Right? Right, people? Uncle John, eh? Right? Who had power of attorney? Who had enduring power of attorney? Who took that away from me without going to court, people? Okay? Well, guess what? It's coming to the surface real fast. Real fucking fast, okay? It never went away. This kind of stuff, you doesn't go away, right? It's their dirty secret. It's not my dirty secret, people. It's the government's dirty secret out here, okay? And was not contacted by hospital staff until after they made the next step. Exactly. Because they do what they want. Mid-intellectual disabilities, schizoaffectiveness disorder, obesity, unspecified heart disease, unspecified something else, unspecified allergic something. Okay. Point is, she started showing symptoms 2 days after the fact. Well, right away, really. She was injected, she stopped eating and talking. The doctor watched her for 2 days. So, she stopped eating, stopped talking after she got injected. Then they watched her for 2 days. Then they transported her to the hospital. Then they told the family member who had power of attorney, right? Okay, to be able to make decisions for their loved one, right? Tested positive for COVID 2 times, once at the home, at the care home, and once at the hospital. Within 2 days at the hospital, she was on a ventilator. 2 days later, she died. I talked with the rehab center and confirmed she tested negative for COVID on December 27th. And they vaccinated her on December 1st. But she started to not talk and eat after 2 days of getting it. Well, right after. And then they monitored her for 2 days. Then they basically put her in a hospital and hooked her up to machines. Well, nobody could visit her and anything. Okay. Like, this is despicable, people. This is despicable. This is so wrong. This is what Uncle John went through. This is what they did to Uncle John. Same kind of crap. Okay, so here is a man, unknown. I think we're looking at a homeless person here, people. We've got, in British Columbia, Canada, healthcare staff. I already posted a link to it on one of my videos. Where in the East Hastings area, where there is a high number of homeless people and people suffering from addictions, with healthcare staff literally standing out on the streets, poking people's arms with this stuff. and then just letting them walk off, I guess, 15 minutes after the fact to wander off wherever they want to go, being that they're homeless and they've got nowhere else to go but go. Okay? So in light of what's going on here, this is what I'm thinking. We're dealing with a homeless man. State, unknown, okay, not applicable. Recovered, no. Serious, yes. It was a Pfizer. Died due to heart attack. This is a spontaneous report from a contactable consumer reporting for her son-in-law from the Pfizer-sponsored program, Pfizer First Connect. A male patient of an unspecified age received the first dose of, okay, right, the mRNA vaccine analog via an unspecified route of administration on an unspecified date at a single dose for, okay, the patient's medical history and competent medications were not reported. The patient died due to heart attack of an unspecified date. The patient died. Interesting, eh? What does that mean? I mean, you can just keep going on and on and on. 87-year-old man, just another number to somebody, but he was somebody's loved one, right? From New York, okay? They gave him, on January 15th, he was vaccinated, right? They say he died on the 16th. Days of onset, 1. Okay? It was the Moderna, only 1 dose. Here, got vaccinated on the 15th, January 15th of 2021. So January 15th of 2021. Oh no, he died. He died on January 30th, right? 15 days later. So he got vaccinated on the 15th of January. He was tired right away. Bedridden for the next 3 days. He couldn't breathe, so he was taken by ambulance on the 18th, I suppose, to the hospital. He was in hospital for several days, put on remdesivir cocktail for 10 days, slowly getting worse, and died in the hospital on the 30th of January of this year. He had no history, so he was healthy. At the time of the vaccination, now he was on this for whatever the reason was. I don't know what that was, but anyway, you get the point. Now, and you remember now, British Columbia, Canada has the magical cure here, okay? We don't suffer from these issues here, people. This is not being reported in British Columbia, Canada. But this lady here, 84 years old, right? A woman. Just a number to somebody, right? But obviously she had loved ones, okay? She's from Texas. She went in on January 31st and got her shot, and she died. Okay? She died that same day. All right? She got it from a pharmacy, people. Okay? She got it from a pharmacy, people. The patient went home. This is what I'm so worried about with the people out in my way. Because I told you there's like 85,000 or something, I don't know, elderly people living in houses out here, not to mention the 80,000 that are living in care homes. The patient went home around 11 a.m. on January 31st, 2021, after her vaccine and 15-minute observation period. This is what my government is doing right now. They're calling in all the old people and natives over 65 to go into their inoculation sites so they can get inoculated and monitored for 15 minutes and then sent home. Okay? She was eating breakfast at home and complained to a neighbor that her teeth hurt and she was nauseated after eating. In the afternoon, she felt dizzy and had diarrhea, accompanied with blood. Close to 9 p.m., her son went to check on her. The patient was found on the floor. She was unresponsive and had purple lips. Her son called an ambulance and started chest compressions. The patient passed away at the hospital. The doctor had ordered an autopsy and the results are pending. Only in Texas will you get this information. You're not going to get this information in British Columbia, Canada. Nope. What you're going to get is, oh, we're moving along. Everything's fine. It's doing really, really good. Yep, no problems. World data and real world data based on the ones that we want to look at tell us so, and we will follow through on what we want to follow through because our own reports tell us so. But the thing is, we're never going to let the people see those reports. Okay? That woman was 84 years old, people. Look how thick that's getting thick. And I'm not even part way down. I'm just like that much on the bar. I mean, this breaks my heart. Completely breaks my heart. Because this is what's happening in my province as I've got some appointed individual that wants to say she's a doctor saying that everything is completely fine and that we don't have these problems. We have a success story in British Columbia, Canada. So being that it's such a success story, why isn't all these other places in the United States hooking up with BC and finding out what our magic secret is to prevent these issues from being coincidental? All right, it is all coincidence, right? It has nothing related to anything. I mean, the woman was fine. She was living in her own home. She obviously went to the pharmacy by herself at 80, what was she, 4? 84? Yeah. And then she went home and had something to eat. She even had time to talk to the neighbor and say goodbye before she actually died. And it took her son to find her. What kind of nonsense is that? It's terrible. Completely terrible. Makes me want to cry. So here I'm going to read a bit more. I really need to print though, right? Resident received the vaccine on January 22nd, 21. And she was diagnosed with COVID-19 during routine testing on January 28, 21. She didn't have any symptoms except feeling weak, and she had a decrease in her appetite. She had already poor appetite prior. She died on February 2nd of 2021. Patient's death on January 1st. February 1st, 2021 at hospital. I'm just reading them. I'm not printing out the details. See, you have this part, what I'm reading from right now. And then you have this part, which just gives you slightly more details. Patient passed away 2 days after vaccine. Patient had temperature, nausea, and vomiting after vaccine. Employee. Well, employees are replaceable though, right? One dies, there's 10,000 more standing in line for the same job. Employee was found unresponsive in floor at her home. EMS arrived and person had expired. Let's read that one. Kentucky, a 56-year-old female. But we have no deaths in British Columbia, Canada, related to anything when it relates to an inoculation. If they die, it's because they caught something. It has nothing to do with being done to them. But you don't even hear who's dying out here. What you hear is everything's okay. Nobody's dying. Everything's fine. It's a success. BC is the gold standard of success. We don't have issues out here. We're supposed to believe Dr. God. Vaccinated on January 10th. Date of onset of issues started 9 days and died on January 19th. Employee was found unresponsive in floor at her home. Medications at the time, unsure. Well, obviously she was a functioning employee. She was 56 years old. Pfizer, 1 dose. Employee was found unresponsive in floor at her home. So that's somebody within her workplace that reported it. Now, whether it was the boss doing the right thing or whether it was one of her co-workers doing the right thing, whoever did that made sure that this woman had her voice heard. Okay? Yeah. This is what I'm up against, people. Okay? Okay, New Hampshire, I'm just reading and typing out just a few more here. A man, right, he was 86 years old. He was in senior living. Okay? This upsets me so much. It makes me want to cry. This was his 2nd dose. Okay. Right. He got it on January 12th. And within 1 day, by January 13th of 2021, he started showing symptoms. Okay. Anesthesia, blood pressure decreased, death, decreased appetite, fall, food refusal, lip blister, oral mucosal blistering, weight decrease. So we're just going to read the day after the 2nd shot. Patient developed blisters on his lips and mouth. The care facility said that he had a nut allergy, but he had never been allergic to nuts. Right? He stopped eating and drinking, and his BP had dropped to 60 to 40. By January 16th, they called to say he was dying and he passed away. They called because they weren't allowed to see him, people. Okay? This is obviously a family member reporting on somebody that they loved. And they weren't allowed to see him, as they were falsifying his medical records by saying he had a peanut allergy to cover up what was happening. Okay? Just like ShaMay's medical files were falsified to cover up what was happening. Okay? To distract away from what was happening, from what was really happening. On January 16th, they called to say he was dying. And he passed away on January 18th, 2021. Patient had COVID-19 from October 29th, early November. By November 21st, he had lost 40 pounds. He was 6'3" and had gone from 189 pounds to 149 pounds with COVID. But do we really know that, people? Were his family members allowed to witness how he was being treated and how he was being cared for? Like, seriously. Right? They just called to tell him that he was dying. They didn't say, oh, come by, he's dying. They didn't, right? They let him get halfway dead before they even called. By November 21st, when we could visit, when we could, okay? When we could. He had recovered from COVID, but was very thin and weak. He could not bathroom alone and kept falling. I wonder why, people. Why couldn't Uncle John walk around? Huh? He kept, right? They kept him in a wheelchair, wouldn't let him get out of bed. Right? Kept him drugged up, kept him confused, made him sleep. He didn't seem to have a bad reaction to the first COVID shot, but he immediately reacted to the second shot and passed away within 6 days. Okay? He had dementia, arthritis, right? That's all he was on. Doesn't seem like it's too life-threatening. That doesn't seem like it's too life-threatening. But clearly something was going on. Okay, I know, it just doesn't end. I'm just randomly going through this list now, printing out a few more, people, seriously thinking to put this forward when I file this lawsuit in terms of a second copy, in advocating for Uncle John and all his friends, people. I'm serious. Medical kidnapping, okay? It all relates to the medical kidnapping of people with assets, mainly, or to remove them off of social safety nets, whether it's their pension plans or whether it's the welfare rolls, okay? As they exploit our healthcare systems that are being propped up by taxpayers' dollars and overbilled, which becomes Medicaid fraud and pharmacare fraud and the whole 9 yards. Anyway, this is another man, just a number to somebody, but for somebody else, he was a man. He was 81 years old. He lived in Georgia. Okay, he went to a pharmacy, people. He went to a pharmacy, okay, and he got himself vaccinated. It was his first dose, right? It was a Moderna, okay? I guess this is why they're really pushing in British Columbia, Canada, the, what is it called? The AstraZeneca, right? The Astra, right? That other one, right? They're really pushing that one, even though 25 countries have already taken it off the shelf. But besides that point, BC is not. They're going on about great reviews that they've had so far with everything and anything that they've been doing. We don't suffer any of these kind of problems, not based on what Dr. God's got to say. But listen to this. On February 11th, 2021, at around 10:15 a.m., patient was given the Moderna brand COVID-19 vaccination. After his vaccination, he was instructed to wait around for 15 minutes. Oh, wow. After the administration of the vaccine. Yeah, being real, that's class act, like gold standard procedures, right? This is why you get certified, right? During that time, there were no reported issues with the patient. On February 15th, 4 days later, 2021, around 9:15 a.m. in the morning, patient's wife called the pharmacy and spoke with the pharmacist, informing her that patient had passed away in his sleep on Saturday evening. Now imagine his elderly wife waking up to that. People. Patient's wife inquired about whether death may have been caused by an adverse reaction to the vaccine. During the call, the patient's wife mentioned that patient slept a lot the day of the vaccine and the day after. Patient's wife mentioned that the patient woke up Saturday to eat breakfast and lunch, and states that later that evening she found patient asleep and cold, which she then realized that he had passed away. Okay? You can't tell me that there's something not going on here. If this individual, this man with his wife, living in their own home, right? He goes home, he sleeps for 2 days. What's going on? What is it? Is it the arm that wants to go to sleep, people? Is it the leg that wants to go to sleep? Or is it something going on in the brain that wants to go to sleep? What made that man want to sleep for 2 days and then manage to wake up for just a little while, enough to eat, to go back to sleep, to never wake up again? He was 81 years old, and his wife, in her elderly years, have been traumatized for the last few years that she has left, with nobody being held to account, because it clearly says submitting a report to VAERS does not mean that healthcare personnel or the vaccine caused or contributed to the adverse event. If that man was able-bodied enough to go walk his ass down to a pharmacy, stand in line, wait for his turn, and then sit around for 15 minutes and then go waddle off back home, why would he die 4 days later because of coincidence? When there's clearly a whole lot of coincidences going on here. Okay? That's their individual stories. This is 600 and, I don't know, 49 stories in all, through 43 pages. It's the same. This is getting thicker than with this. Okay, this gives the run, just the basic. This gives a little more detail, because you get to see this part up in here, right? You get to see how many doses. That was his first dose, people. And with these individuals working the fields and wherever they're working out here on low wages through that class system, caste. It's a caste, which is even more draconian than a class system, because under a caste system, the people that are lord above those below them seem to think that those below them can be sacrificed, because they will never rise above what oppresses them. They will never rise to be equal to what oppresses them, and they sure in hell will never rise above as to what oppresses them, because they're on a caste system. They will always be below who and what oppresses them. And right now, with the demographics going on in my province, with those being targeted, based on age, and they're now going into homes for this particular age group, 80 and above, as they're squeezing in 70-year-olds, and right? And then next my group, right? As if they're doing me a favor, robbing my grandchildren of their grandmother, and then say, oh, well, it must have been the pressure in her head because she had glaucoma, right? Ringing in her ears. She already had problems, so it just caught up to her. It was a coincidence. Yeah, okay, sure. Here's one. Wife reported patient expired. So another wife, right? Another wife. What does this wife have to say? 1 dose. It took 28 days. It was just the wife who reported it. No details. But every voice counts. It was a 90-year-old man. It was administered in a public place. Right? They obviously came out of wherever they were living and they went to a public place because their number was called. Or they were reassured it was the right thing to do. This is why I say, if something happens to my landlords, and it happens, you won't hear the end of it, people. But you know what? I think some of this stuff is a little selective. I think out here, the reason we're not hearing what we should be hearing is because that caste system is in play. Right? Here's a long one. Anxious, relentless, weak, dizzy, felt horrible, continued to CO symptoms. At 1:15, patient lost consciousness, then stopped breathing and lost pulse. Narrative: patient was first vaccinated for COVID on January 8th of 2021, and on January 24th, 61-year-old presented to ER with CC of chest pain, SOB, with multiple medical conditions including hypertension, arterial fibrillation, on Axaban, blah, 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 lungs, okay, blah, blah, okay, blah, blah, just a whole bunch of stuff here. Chief complained of chest pain or shortness of breath. He had been having worsening shortness of breath the past few days, also complained of palpitations or lightheadedness, right? He denies fever or chills. He complains of having fallen a few times recently. What, the legs just stopped working? What was it that told the legs just to stop working, people? Brain damage. Why do you think Amari's legs don't work? They say it's all to do with the brain, even though sometimes I think his back was broken. Or partly broken. It's interesting how he can kick his legs. He can go like this. He can do a lot of that. But he can't stand on them. Why? What's the matter? What's going on? So anyway, we're just going to print this one out. Onset of symptoms. Okay, these numbers are not matching up here. On January 28th, on January 28th, a Pfizer vaccine. But you have to remember, anybody that's gotten any Pfizer vaccines out here, anybody that's gotten any Moderna vaccines out here, everybody out here, not one person has had a reaction to that and died after the fact. Everybody that gets reported on in British Columbia, Canada, when it comes to death, has strictly to do with they caught something. They caught it, right? Not that they got it and then died. It was the fact that they caught something and died. But here, you can kind of start to see a pattern, right? So anyway, this 61-year-old man was vaccinated. It says other, okay, but he was 61. He wasn't that old, people. 1 year older than me, right? On February 28th, the next day he started showing symptoms. You heard me starting to read it. And by I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. This is January 20th. I don't know how that works. Maybe they got their days mixed up here. Let me go read this. Oh my God, he got a whole list of shit in here, people. A whole list of shit. Yeah, no, he got his first vaccine on January 8th. They got it listed here wrong. And then on January 24th, he went to the ER. Look at this. Sorry. Right? The numbers in here, they're not matching up right. It says he died on January 20th. But here, he got vaccinated on January 28th. So, I don't know. But down there, it says January 8th. So, somebody made a mistake. Something's happening here. Right? Sorry. Okay? And then, it was a Pfizer, 1 dose. Right? And then you can see, look. Look at all these symptoms. Look what happened. Right? Cardiac failure, dizziness, death, fall, frequent bowel movements, gaze, palsy, loss of consciousness, lung disorder, muscle rigidity, all kinds of crazy crap. Look at this. White blood cell count increased. And then they wrote all this stuff in here. But of course, right, submitting a report to VARS does not mean that healthcare professionals or the vaccine caused or contributed to the adverse event. He was 61 years old, people. Right? Medications at the time. They don't have anything listed. Didn't have no history of things. Right? Where he got vaccinated from, I don't know. But anyway, he didn't survive. Okay? Okay? 90-year-old man, Wisconsin. Right? Okay? Just a number to somebody, but somebody loved this man. Alright? So anyway. Gentleman received his first Moderna dose on Thursday, February 11th at 8:49. Vaccination protocol was complete. Patient reported feeling fine. Sorry, wandering eye. No fever. And that he had no allergies which would prevent him from getting the vaccine. Patient played cards with friends later that day. Okay, this was on the 11th after he got his shot. But left at 19:30. Normally plays late into the evening. But he was telling his companions he didn't feel well and his neck hurt. The welfare call was complete on February 13th, 2 days later, and the patient was found deceased in the bathroom by his son. It appeared patient fell off toilet and hit his head on the tub. Pressure ulcer present under injection site. The presumed time of death was Thursday evening. So he had been in the bathroom for a couple of days. Right? Honestly, I don't know where our cops are other than running around with their sirens, making themselves look busy. Can you hear them? I guess that's a fentanyl overdose, right? That must be. You know, somebody that wanted to commit suicide or accidentally killed themselves. Never fentanyl by murder. Notice how it stopped? Anytime they're roaming around here with their sirens on, it always has something to do with fentanyl. Okay, trust me. with the good old coroner showing up with the baby-faced cop running around, okay? Andre and I, we were walking one time up by the apple tree, and Andre goes, there's the cops, and who do I see run by? The baby-faced fucking cop with all his fucking friends out there. Yeah, well, we know what that was about, right? Anyway, this one is work-related, but of course it won't affect cops because there's some shady shit going on around here. Where this individual is working, I don't know, but this one is obviously work-related, okay? 67-year-old male, right? You know what I'm saying? From North Carolina, okay? He gets his shot on February 4th. He starts to show symptoms on 2 days later, on the 6th, and he died by the 13th, okay? This is obviously work-related. Vaccine administered by work. You can see that, people. It says work. All right? Okay? So this guy is doing the right thing, paying his taxes. Working. Okay? They don't say what kind of work he was doing, but he was working. And obviously, it was probably mandated through his employer, right? Or maybe he was just gaslighted and, guilted into protecting his co-workers. Even though inside a little birdie told him, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's not worth risking your life. But he did it anyway because he was a responsible working man, 67 years old. He must have been healthy if he was working, people, at 67. Okay. And this is the stuff that he came down with after the fact of whatever he got. And here it says, patient woke up the morning on February 6th with symptoms of a stroke. Rushed to hospital where clot found in brain. Wow, isn't that interesting? Has something to do with the brain, right? Why the brain, people? Why didn't he have a clot in his finger? Why didn't he have a clot in his baby toe? Huh? Recovered from the initial stroke, but then had another major stroke on the 8th and never recovered. Okay? And of course they, hospital wants to get paid for things that they do, so they did their multiple CT scans and MRIs and echoes and labs. Sinus infection being treated with steroids and antibiotics. That was his only illness, people. Okay? In terms of what they were treating him at the time. Okay? He had asthma, allergies, chronic sinus infections, depression, history of heart attack, aspirin. But they gave it to him anyway. Right? Why? I'm just bouncing around. I'm going all the way down to the bottom of this list and just kind of picking out random ones. 94 years old, lives in Ohio. A woman, right? Just a number to somebody. But she was a mother to somebody who reported this. Okay. All right. It was administered by an unknown person because, again, you can't go into these care homes and participate with your loved ones, right? Because that's a no-no. They don't want witnesses, right, as to what they're really doing. Anyway, symptoms, coronary artery disease, death, myocardial infarction, and swelling face. Why would that be? Patient had swelling around her jaw after her second shot of the COVID. So she had 2 of them, Pfizer, right? Okay, and it goes on, right? So Pfizer vaccine, blah, blah, on Friday morning, January 29th. I took her to a follow-up appointment with the cardiologist at 3 p.m. as a follow-up to a small heart attack event with hospitalization 2 weeks previously. At the cardiologist, she was given the okay, all is well. The next morning, earlier, she had a 911 event. That was after her shot, after the cardiologist said it was okay, right? At her assisted living apartment, so she wasn't in long-term care, she was in an assisted living. Big difference, people. And was seen and was sent back to the hospital, having had another heart attack. Patient died on the following Thursday, February 4th. All right. So she got the vaccine, the second dose, on January 29th, and by February 4th, she died. This is what I want you to hear. This is why I do it, people. I do not know if the vaccination had any cause for my mother's death, but I feel it is necessary to report this series of heart attacks after she received the Pfizer vaccine. Her certificate of death records the cause of death as coronary artery disease. Well, we know what the daughter is saying, right? Or son. Could be a son. We don't know if there's a woman that reported this. Anyway, the child, the adult child, disagrees with what is on the death certificate based on what this woman was inoculated with through her assisted living program. Okay? She was 94 years old. And she was in assisted living, which means that she was still fairly independent for her age. Okay? Keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind that none of this is happening in British Columbia, Canada. Absolutely none. Only in America. This is only happening in America and maybe some other country that we can't access this kind of information and we're not being told about. Okay? But it's definitely not happening in British Columbia, Canada, based on what we're being told, right? Because everything is like flying colors out here, right? You know, they're doing such a really, really good job. They're working really, really, really hard, and there are no side effects. None. Absolutely none. No, 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 no. Anyway, this woman here is 83 years old. You can see that. California, right? Okay, date received, the vaccination. Date vaccinated was February 4th, all right? And then by February 6th, 2 days later, started showing problems. Right? This is private, so I think living in their own home. Okay? These are the issues. Right? Loss of consciousness. Right? Well, I guess the body just decided to shut itself off. Had nothing to do with the brain. Right? Had nothing to do with the brain, people. Had everything to do with the body saying, I just don't want to work no more, so we're just going to stop moving. All right. Anyway, we're going to read this. Patient found at home, people, with agonal respiration and per EMS, Astol received 2 rounds of epi at her house. Okay? At her house. With return of spontaneous pulses. Lost pulse again, en route to ER, and another round of epi was given. CPR in progress when arrived at hospital. Prior to this, patient's husband states he heard her fall in the bathroom, but did not immediately check on her, as he states that this has happened before. He checked on her 10 minutes later, and that's when he found her unconscious. Daughter called 911, and she began CPR. No previous complaints of headache, chest pain, back pain, fever, or chills. Husband states patient was drinking that evening, which is not unusual for her. Patient died at hospital. Now that's a mystery, don't you think? 83-year-old drinker? Well, did it to herself? Is that it? Is that what we're reading here? Is that what we're looking at? I don't know, people. You tell me. What do you think? All I know is none of this is happening in British Columbia, Canada. Absolutely none. We don't have these problems. We're in a wonderland state where everything is running smoothly and as planned. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to do. I've just printed off a whole bunch more. I'm going to do this again, people. This is thick, double thick in size now. This is the one individual page per person. Okay, so you can see what's going on here. Right? I mean, it just doesn't stop. Right? Again, I don't know why the cops aren't getting involved in this. They're not doing their jobs, people. The police are not doing their jobs, okay? This is not right. This is not right. This is not right, okay? This is just a fraction of what I'm looking at, okay, in terms of me printing out. Anyway, this number, right, pensioner, right, who's no longer a pensioner because she was 86 years old, who lived in New York. She got vaccinated on January 16th, okay, and started showing symptoms by January 23rd. So that's about a week, right? And then she died on, I guess, it was 7 days before, a week. 7 days before she started showing symptoms after she got her first shot. She only had one at age 86. They don't know who gave it to her, but somebody did. And then she died on February 8th. Okay? Right? These are her symptoms, conditions, aggravated, death, dizziness, fall, feeling abnormal. Right? She tested negative. Patient previously had dizzy spells, but about a week after receiving the vaccine, her dizzy spells began to get worse. The whole prior, she kept saying, I am just not right. On February 7th of 21, she had a COVID test done. A nurse came to her house and performed. On the morning of the 8th, patient was on the phone with someone else, and patient asked this person to call me and to go check on her. Within 5 minutes, I was over at her house, and I found her on the floor, on her belly, face down. It looked like she was on the toilet, and it looked like she fell getting off her, getting her off. And it looked like she fell getting her off. She was still wet. She still felt warm. I called the ambulance and immediately began CPR. When EMS arrived, they took over the CPR and transported her to hospital. The EMS was there for about 40 minutes and used a machine to perform the compressions. She was pronounced deceased at the hospital. No autopsy was done. Obviously, issues. Okay, this is my last one, okay, because I can go on and on and on and on. But I do want to say this. Being that they've rolled back the second dose to 4 months instead of 3 weeks, in other words, you have to wait 4 months in order to get the second dose, because they're trying to make it fair for everybody else to get the first dose so that they can be somewhat protected for a really, really long time, even though it's only for a short while, because they speak with double forked tongue. Right? We know that. Okay? I don't think it's so much that, people, as it is that they're trying to hide the fact that these second doses, if not the first dose, is pushing people off the edge. Okay? Because this is being reported. This was a man from Missouri, 74 years old. Private, which means he lived at home, more than likely. Right? He's not in an assisted care facility. He's not in a long-term care facility. He's a man living at home. Right? And this was his second dose. And you can see how much they wrote here. Right? Quite a bit. Her husband's primary care doctor wasn't available to speak on Wednesday morning, but the doctor's nurse said it sounded like her husband was having a reaction to his second COVID-19 vaccine shot. Death. Passed out. Stomach was bothering. I'm right here. Okay. Stomach was bothering, constipated, difficulty breathing, weakness was reported as worsened, a temperature of 99.4 degrees, sweaty, cold, muscle aches, body aches, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, tiredness. His raspy throat felt like he had mucus stuck in his throat, cough, raspy throat worsened. This is a spontaneous report from a contractable consumer reporting her husband. A 75-year-old male patient received the second dose of blah, 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 right? The Pfizer batch, blah, 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 date, blah, 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 at age 74 years old via an unspecified route of administration on February 4th of 2021 at 9:15, a single dose in arm right for COVID-19 immunization. Medical history include type 2 diabetes, mellitus for about blah, 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 25 years. So whatever he had it for a long time. Ongoing kidney disease from 2005, ongoing chronic kidney disease, cardiac pacemaker insertion. The patient was diagnosed with kidney disease. Okay, read that. To stage 4 kidney disease. She said that the Veterans Administration diagnosed her husband with his kidney disease, but her husband saw a private doctor as well, a VA doctor for his care. There were no concomitant medications. The patient previously received the first dose, right, of this, whatever, at age 34, blah, 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 on January 15th of 2021 in the right arm, right? And he received the second one on what? February 4th, right? Okay? Right arm for vaccination within 4 weeks. Okay? Is this it, right? Okay? The patient had symptoms start earlier in the day of Tuesday, February 9th. Okay? After his second COVID vaccine shot on February 4th. The reporter said she and her husband didn't think anything of his symptoms at first. The patient had a temperature of 99.4 degrees on February 9th of 2021. She didn't check her husband's temperature again after that time because the nurse at her husband's doctor's office, so they went to the doctor's office, so he wasn't in a care home, people, okay? He went to a doctor's office, said her husband's temperature was not at an area of concern. The patient was sweaty off and on, starting February 9th. She clarified he would be sweaty and the cold, fatigue, tiredness, and the cold, but nothing extreme. The patient developed muscle aches, body aches, diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting on February 9th. She clarified her husband had fatigue, tiredness, and had trouble with a raspy throat. His raspy throat started Tuesday evening, February 9th. His raspy throat felt like he had mucus stuck in his throat. He was unable to clear the mucus from his throat. The reporter called her husband primary care doctor on the morning of February 10th because her husband was having trouble with a raspy throat and difficult breathing. She said on Tuesday night, February 9th, her husband had to sleep sitting up because he couldn't lay down with his breathing. He was able to eat breakfast, clarified as oatmeal and an orange. Lunch, clarified as soup and a salad. And dinner, clarified as soup and a half a sandwich. She said her husband ate all the meat and half the bread on the sandwich on February 10th. Her husband's primary care doctor wasn't available to speak on Wednesday morning, February 10th, but the doctor's nurse said it sounded like her husband was having a reaction. to his second COVID-19 vaccine shot. The reporter said her husband's doctor instructed her later in the day to take her husband to emergency room or urgent care if he didn't feel any better. Her husband's throat raspiness got worse in the evening of February 10th, 21. His breathing also became worse after dinner in the evening, February 10th of 21. The patient leaned forward over a couple of pillows while sitting on the couch, as it was easier for him to breathe by doing that. They decided at 11 p.m. Okay, these are old people in their homes. All right, this is what is happening in British Columbia, Canada, now, with all these healthcare public union sector professionals going into old people's homes and inoculating them with our basic government representatives saying everything is fine, that we don't have this problem. We don't have this problem, people. We don't. I don't know. For some reason, I find it kind of hard to believe that we don't have this problem. They decided at 11 o'clock that her husband should go to the emergency room. She said her husband was getting very... Hold on a minute. Okay, so this video is way too long, but you know, this is so important, people. So important. But anyway, the doorbell, right? Because, you know, April, if you're watching, if you've gotten this far into this video, remember I told you, I just want to be able to, when I send my little stamp thing to your daughter, right? With your blackberry jelly. You know, that's what got delivered today. I had to order these from online, which, you know, cost so much money. But whatever. You need these little envelopes when you're doing stamps. You put your little stamps in there. You put your where it comes from, the country, and then, you know, you put your little stamps. And right? So just to get her started. There's there's another thing I need yet, right, coming in the mail, right? I don't want to just send you a book with nothing. I'll give you a few stamps. I'll give you a few envelopes, right? So you get started, right? She can start, right? And then from there, if she likes it, I'll give you guys an opportunity to go online or wherever or whatever, and then 50 years will go by and she'll be like, I remember when I started this stamp collection, I was so-and-so age, and my mummy helped me, and it all started with this lady from British Columbia, Canada, right? So that's what I've been waiting for, to continue with that, because I needed them for myself as well. So I'll put that down, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish reading this, because this is so sad. You could write a book just on this stuff that I'm reading, that I'm doing, right? Like, seriously, you could. And I think I can print this one out. Let me print it out, get it printed, and as it's printing, I'll just finish reading it, okay? Because it's so upsetting. But every voice counts. So, as I was saying, they decided at 11 p.m. that her husband should go to the emergency room. That's kind of like what Uncle John and I were thinking when Uncle John came down with that lung infection, and we just didn't know what it was, right? We knew that the flu had been in the house for the week. Everybody got it except for Uncle John. He was the last one to get it. And because I slept for a week with it, people, right, I was very concerned for him to be sleeping and getting dehydrated, right? So anyway, you know, the decision that, you know, we debated, we talked about it, it was either me taking him to the doctor, because I had went off. After I got sick, I went off and, I slept for a week, and then I went off and I walked, and I got my car insurance, because, you know, my car had sat for a while. I put money in it that sat, and then I was like, well, this is the time to do it, because there's, you know, people have had flu in the house and blah, 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 and anyway, I went off and did it, but, you know, it was either I was going to take him to the doctor or to the hospital myself, or maybe we should do it non-emergency. We chose the non-emergency route, and what a mistake that was, people. What a mistake it was, because they're using the healthcare system to do nefarious things here, but Okay. So when I read stuff like that, I think of Uncle John and I trying to make the right decisions, you know, and we get blindsided, right? She said her husband was getting very weak. So she and her husband debated if they should call whoever for an ambulance, 911 for an ambulance, or if she should drive him to the emergency room. Now, these are old people, right? How old was this individual? This man was 74 years old, so they weren't that old. So his wife was debating whether she should drive him, like I was debating whether I should drive Uncle John, or go in through non-emergency, right, with the ambulance. And because of his age, he was 76, right, and because we didn't know that lung infections could create delirium, could create temporary delirium in old people because of their age. I mean, we didn't know. We just knew that there was something wrong. Within a space of a day, he went to sleep fine and he woke up a little loopy. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, John, you're getting loopy. What the hell's going on? And then he got the diarrhea, right? He got a little weak. And then, you know, the next day it was like, well, it's either I take you to the doctor, I take you to the hospital, or we have you go in with a non-emergency ambulance. We chose the non-emergency ambulance, and then we know the story from there. C'est la vie, Uncle John, and yeah. Anyway, she said her husband was getting very weak, so she and her husband debated, okay, or if she should drive him to the emergency room. She said her husband was able to dress himself, but with some difficulty. And she assisted walking him from their house to their car. She said she had turned... Andre, turn that down, please. Andre?
I know.
She said her husband was able to... Okay. She said she had turned to walk away from her husband while he was at the side of their car, and then she heard her husband make a noise. He had appeared to have passed out. She clarified in the past her husband had passed out prior to his pacemaker. She said she dialed 911 and the 911 operator told her how to tell if her husband was still breathing. She said she couldn't tell if her husband was still breathing. She said when the ambulance arrived at her house, the ambulance staff worked on her husband for a long time. The reporter thought her husband had died at the time he had collapsed at the side of their car. The patient took a sugar-free cough syrup Tuesday night, February 9th, and then again a couple of times on Wednesday, February 10th, as treatment, because he had that raspy cough, right? The patient had thrown up a couple of times. Oh, haven't we heard that already before, people? But found that the sugar-free cough syrup soothed his cough the night before, February 9th. She said her husband had taken 2 Tums earlier on Wednesday morning at approximately 2 a.m., February 10th. He had said his stomach was bothering him on February 10th. He said he thought he may be constipated. Why does that keep coming up? Things binding in there, twisting, what's going on? So he took 1 Senokot, natural vegetable laxative with stool softener, on February 10th. She clarified her husband had diarrhea on February 9th. So he went from having diarrhea to feeling constipated all in the space of a very short time. Just makes me want to cry. But felt on February 10th he may have been constipated. What it is, people, is I want to cry. Right? I haven't cried for ShaMay. Remember that? Or that wail out. Ooh. Haven't cried for Sierra. Remember that? I haven't even cried for Uncle John. So when you want to cry, but you can't, and the tears are burning your eyes, literally just burning your eyes, because you just can't cry, that's what I'm feeling right now. There were no adverse events required a visit to emergency room since patient's wife stated she was getting her husband to their car so she could drive him to the emergency room when her husband collapsed and died, or to physician office as they ache, body aches, fatigue, tiredness, raspy throat worsened. Difficulty breathing, weakness was not recovered, and the remaining events was unknown. The patient died on February 11th. The patient's official time of death was Thursday, February 11th, but remember the wife feels that he died while standing at their car. Okay. At 12:08 a.m. Look what they did to ShaMay. She was dead before they came, before they took her there. She was dead in the house for an hour, people. They falsified ShaMay's medical records, okay? Cause of death was unknown. An autopsy was not performed. I wonder why. Must have been an accident. And it would take 3 weeks for a death certificate to be issued. The reporter stated she thought it was important to notify Pfizer of her husband's passing because his side effects fell within the expected time period after receiving his second COVID-19 vaccine. Reported cause of death is death. He was 74 years old, from Missouri. You tell me how this is fair. Okay, I gotta end it now. I'm like wanting to cry. Because I don't know what kind of game our governments, more than one, are playing with us. I know what kind of game the provincial government and their government employees have been playing with my family all these years. But when it's on a grand scale like this, I don't know. All I know is this is the first batch I printed out in terms of those stories. Okay? Right? And this was from the period of December, I think, to January. This is what I did today from February. For the month of February. Okay? I walked you through some of them. This is what I printed out as individuals, just right, to document a little bit more as to who these people really were. Okay? Versus just a little summary. Right? So, I am keeping these on hand. Right? Okay. This is what I printed out today. Can you see how thick that is? This is the first batch. This is the second batch. Okay, I am going to do this again in another week or 2 or 3 or so. Okay. Look at this. We're pushing over 100 pages. But for some reason, BC is immune to this. We're being told none of this stuff is happening out here in British Columbia, Canada.